Hi there, this is John from Pino Comics.
This is the other John from Pino Comics.
And we just wanted to warn you before you tune into our quite excellent show that we may or may not use, what type of term would you use for the language, John?
Swearing with flair.
Swearing with flair.
Colorful language.
Colorful language.
Or just plain out, I don't know.
Gutter talk.
Gutter talk, there we go.
You've been warned. Listen in. Hey there, listeners.
That was beautiful.
This is Jon and John. John, how you doing?
You can call me Sir Jon. That's
Sir
fine.
Jon. Okay, I'm going to call you Sir Jon.
You should.
And we are here today to introduce you to our brand new podcast, Pint O Comics. That's right.
O Comics.
It's the most Irish podcast name you've ever heard.
Why?
Well, you know, the O with the apostrophe.
So?
That's automatically Irish, John.
If you say so.
So we.
I think it's Scottish,
You
but
think
it's okay.
Is it Scottish?
It's quite fine.
Is it Scottish?
It's quite fine.
Okay. Not Welsh, though.
Not Welsh.
Not Welsh.
Nothing's Welsh.
And what we're here today to give you is we're here to give you a introduction to our show. Probably about 2 years ago, we were lucky enough to be able to join up with our old friend Vinny, who had his own podcast, From the Hip.
From the Hip.
From the Hip. And From the Hip was a podcast that Vinny started with a friend, and they were doing episodes mainly about wrestling and stuff like that. Much of the way a lot of things happen nowadays, he put an ad online and said, anybody want a podcast with me, I'll talk about anything.
Ooh, yeah.
You know? And I said, I'm not a big wrestling guy, but I know Vinny was a comic guy to an extent. And I answered that ad. And I hadn't seen Vinny in a long time, and I one day just went over to his house and we recorded a couple podcasts, and we had a good time. And then we were talking about the podcast, and Vinny said, well, you know any way they could spice it up? And I said, oh, I know somebody that could spice it up. I said, and you know who he is too. And he goes, who's that? I said, well, that's Sir Jon. I said, Sir Jon is resident.
Oh, you're so nice.
He's a resident expert on comics and movies and beer and all this great stuff. Let's get him in and we'll talk. A year and a half later, 50 plus episodes.
Almost 60,
60, I think it was.
Yeah.
We had a great time. Vinny was not happy with the state of Connecticut. And he had made it clear for quite a while that he was looking to sell his house and move his family down south. And eventually he did. And
we even moved the podcast a couple times.
We originally recorded in Southington, and then we recorded in Bristol for a while.
Yep.
And now it's down south. He's doing episodes now. So if you were From the Hip fan, I definitely encourage you to check it out. But that left me and John in a rut because we were having quite a good time on that podcast.
We had met some really interesting people, and we're going to continue that.
That's absolutely true. We had been clawing at the opportunity to get back to it. It's been about 6 months since we stopped doing anything From the Hip wise.
Really? 6 months?
Last summer, basically, was really kind of towards the end of that.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
the way anything works in life gets in the way. Equipment's not cheap for this kind of thing. And so we kind of put ourselves in stasis. We continue to do things, go places, kind of get experiences, meet people with the idea of starting our own thing, which is Pint O Comics. Pint O Comics, you might say to yourself, is this only about comic books? No.
No, not at all.
No, it's going to be about comic books, but much like New York Comic Con or Newberry Comics, two very, very large businesses that use comics in their name, they're not just about comics. No. We're going to talk about movies, food. We will talk about whatever we really want to on that given day. And I think we'll put out a good enough show that you'll want to listen to us from one show to another.
We've got some pretty interesting guests that are waiting to get on the show.
Oh, yeah.
And they cover everything from what we've just said, comics, games, movies, to historical things here in the state or otherwise.
Yes.
Even beer.
Even beer.
Even beer.
I look forward to the episodes we do about beer.
So do I.
And we're going to...
Speaking of which,
and we're today,
drinking a fine beverage from New Glarus, Wisconsin, called the Spotted Cow from the New Glarus Brewing Company.
Now, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but this beer, from what I understand, which is very good,
excellent,
is only available in Wisconsin. So if you do not do as John does once a year and make a pilgrimage to Wisconsin, you're not drinking this.
At least once a year.
At least once a year. We'll get into that too. So before we get into what we're going to talk about on this first show, I did want to mention one
pilot episode.
Our pilot episode. Hopefully we get picked up. A couple things I want to mention. As we talked about currently, we're still in the process of getting a web page set up. We have the domain.
I would say that by the time this gets put up, unless you're going to do it very soon, the website should be up within 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'm going to put it up
very soon.
I'm going to put this up fairly soon from recording. Yep. But if you're a fan and you enjoyed From the Hip and you enjoy us, just give us a little bit of time because there definitely is more cost incurred than you would be
it's a slow
maybe
build.
aware. And it's a slow build. But this episode will be loaded onto Libsyn, which is a podcast hosting site. Our destination on Libsyn is Pinto because they don't do apostrophes or capital O's. It's pintocomics.libsyn.com, and you'll be able to find us there. We'll spread this when it happens, so that's just for you to know. Other thing I did want to mention real quick. Oh, and the website also is going to be pintocomics.com. Think about Pinto.
No, let's not think of a Pinto.
Think of us in the same terms as that. Well, no, don't think of us as a Ford Pinto.
Yeah, someone's going to start sending pictures of Ford Pinto.
How about Pintos and cheese? That delicious snack they used to have. Does Taco Bell still do that?
That was pimentos, wasn't it?
No, Pintos. Pinto beans.
Oh, pinto beans. Oh. Great, we're a pinto bean now. Yeah.
Pinto bean. I do want to mention.
We're a pinto bean.
I do want to mention one more very, very important member of the From the Hip family. Vinny had a couple of dogs that we were very fond of, Jake and Kobe, who often ruined the show for us with their loud mouths and their inability to stay quiet while we were trying to record.
Oh, they were fun.
And Jake, unfortunately, recently had to be put down. I just want to dedicate this first episode to Jake because he's kind of like our little. He's up there right now watching over us.
He's going.
He's going. So I just clipped really badly, so Vinny would yell at me for that, but I can edit that out.
That's okay.
So in this first episode, we decided we were going to talk about what, John?
Everything. But we're going to start with gaming since we got to do some gaming recently.
We did. And as we're recording this in April, every year you take your sojourn to Wisconsin.
In March.
Why don't you tell us about that, why you go, what you go for?
Every year I go to GaryCon. This would be the 9th year I've done it straight. It's on the 9th year. Obviously next year will be 10. It is the anniversary of the passing of Gary Gygax.
Is March the anniversary of when he passed? I didn't know why you did it at that time.
Yep, it's the original, what they call now GaryCon 0, which I did not attend, was the year of his funeral. And it was the day of his funeral. They went, the people that went to the funeral went and decided to do this somewhat impromptu gaming setup where they decided to celebrate his life by gaming, which is what they should be doing. So then they decided to do another one the following year, which is the first one I went to, which was called GaryCon 1, and it became an annual event where you would go to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where Gary was living at the time, and that's where D&D was born, Dungeons and Dragons.
If for anybody that doesn't know, if you want to really quickly explain who Gary Gygax is.
Gary is one of the co-creators of Dungeons and Dragons and TSR, Technical Studies Rules, the company that published the game for so many years. It's now owned by a completely different company, which is a subsidiary of Hasbro. So
is that Wizards of the Coast?
Wizards of the Coast,
okay,
yes.
All right.
Who bought TSR quite a while ago now. I can't remember exactly when, but Wizards of the Coast now is a subsidiary of Hasbro. So Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, is big again. It's not nearly as big as it was in the early 80s when it hit its peak, but it's getting up there again, popularity-wise anyway.
Yeah, well, it seems to be one of those things that
it never goes away.
It never goes away. From what I understand, I'm a neophyte with Dungeons and Dragons, but for me, it seems like if you were into Dungeons and Dragons 20 years ago, you're probably still into Dungeons and Dragons now.
In certain ways, yeah. I mean, there's been some what they call the old school renaissance. A bunch of old people
like you, old people.
I'm really.
You're dating yourself.
Yes, I am.
Carbon dating yourself.
A bunch of us old tapioca eaters came out of the woodwork like, oh, I like playing that when I was 35, so I'll play it again. And drink beer at the same time. But anyway, GaryCon is a celebration of what they call a life well played.
It's a celebration, bitches.
That's right, a celebration.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Charlie Murphy recently died. And
poor Charlie Murphy.
I had to throw that in there.
So then me and many, many other people go. This year it hit about 1,700 people, they were saying.
Now,
which is really a small convention in the scheme of things, because when you look at
that's how they all start, though. New York Comic Con wasn't always,
Well, true. Well, that one started with like 10,000, I want to say.
Okay, but I you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we recently had a couple years ago a mention of GaryCon on the very popular show Big Bang Theory, correct?
True.
Which I know you're not really fond of,
that would be 3 years ago now.
Even though you don't like the show, which I understand, I'm not a huge fan of the show either. Does that give you a little bit, are you glad to see something that is, I know it's yours, I know you don't want to give it away to anybody.
No, it's not that. I mean, I'd rather it be seen by more people. It doesn't bother me that it was on the show. I just hate the fact that it needs to be vindicated by a program of that nature.
Okay, I get that.
That's all.
I get that.
From my perspective, it's already been vindicated. It's a good game. It's a good socialization of the people that go. I mean, I love it for that fact. I mean, I don't go just to play the games. I go to run the games, and I go to meet people, and I meet a lot of people.
I've seen some of you. I've seen the pictures. I've heard the stories. I mean, and you go with a crew.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah,
every year,
some of my own gamers here.
your gamers in what are they called again?
The Fond of Justice League.
Can you explain that to me? I don't think I've ever asked you where that came from.
It wasn't my idea.
It wasn't your idea.
The idea of having a named group at the table is something that goes back to the early days of playing role-playing games. And we were banding the ideas about at one point, and the guys decided to throw this name together. They're the Fond of Justice League. They're only fond of justice.
Not necessarily driving it home.
Right.
Just,
quite right.
you know, they're cool with it.
Yeah, they're good with justice.
They're good with justice.
That's all. They're not really good at it.
So you and the entire, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 members of the Fond of Justice crew.
Not all of us
For the
go.
most part, not all of you go?
No, just a handful. But I would say at this point now it's 4 plus me.
Okay, and so you go out there. The con starts on what day?
At this point now it starts on a Thursday.
And ends on a Sunday.
Yes. It was a 3-day con, and I forget what year they moved it to 4 days. And that was the best thing they could do because 3 days just wasn't enough.
So what do you have for 4 days? Now, I know you run a lot of games, but walk us through 4 days, even not so much for you.
Let's walk you through 5 days. Because,
oh, my God.
Because I go out there early, mostly to meet up with the guys that I've met over the years and have a good time before the con actually starts, which usually happens. They'll have a meet and greet the night before the con starts. It's gotten a little stranger over the last couple of years because we're in a new facility and it's big, and because the convention's grown so much, a lot of the people that I would normally hang out with in previous years are busy doing other things. So I only see them in passing in most cases. On the other hand, the people I do get to see on a yearly basis, and we make sure that we meet up that night before and have ourselves about 1 million spotted cows and probably, oh, hey, speaking of,
We were talking about that earlier.
Malort.
Let's quickly again talk about New Glarus, about spotted cow.
Fine. You don't want to talk about Malort?
We can talk about Malort, and we will talk about Malort.
I got a bottle right over there.
No. I have an empty bottle at my house now. From about 3 nights ago, we had a game night at my house, and we made. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Spotted cow. So you guys go out there, you get together. It's a community.
It is. It's a big community. Gaming is a big community as it is now on so many levels because Dungeons and Dragons itself is now. We're in 40 years.
Yeah.
50, not 50 yet.
So here's a question. What was your introduction to Dungeons and Dragons?
It was many years ago.
We won't talk years.
I was a young lad in my middle school years.
Middle school.
I think it was even earlier than
Now,
that.
we're making the movie of this right now. I'm just telling you how this would go. Here's John in like not bell bottoms, but like kind of like those kind of jeans.
No.
He's got one of those baseball type concert shirts on, and it's Rush. And then someone's pulling up
Jay Giles.
Someone's pulling up an old Camaro, and it's playing The Stroke.
Wow.
And someone's like,
Sounds
"Hey,
like
a
wedding singer.
And I picture two people coming up to you, and one guy going, "Hey, Johnson, you want to go in the back and blaze one up?" And then like your other friend Sherman's like, "John, we're gonna be playing some Dungeons and Dragons in the library. Would you like to join us?" And you're
show
like,
you my polyhedrals.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you my the Demigorgon.
I honestly don't remember how it was just. At the time, it was the thing to get into. Yeah. Everybody was playing it, and
well, the news too. I mean, I remember I was younger, I remember the kids killing themselves and going into the sewers and all this stuff, and much like anything else that gets popular, it gets blamed for dumb stuff.
No, I got into it just because other kids were into it, and unlike most of the other kids, it stuck with me.
Right.
So I played it well through my high school years before I actually took a break.
Now here's a question I have.
Then I never stopped.
You never stopped.
Well, very, very brief.
You discovered girls real quick.
No, I think nobody was playing it, and
couldn't find
anybody to game with. Towards the end of my high school years, there was another resurgence, but by then the second edition had come out, and I didn't understand that.
This is my question because again, I don't know much about Dungeons and Dragons, but I do know that you hardcore Dungeons and Dragons fans.
Yeah.
There's an edition you all hate, right?
Fourth.
Okay. What would we're gonna get back to GaryCon, but I'm a curious. I'm a curious soul, and I don't want the long answer. I just want what would 4th edition? Did Gary Gygax have anything to do with 4th edition?
No, he was long gone by then.
So was it just like they took the rule set and said brand new rules?
It was a completely new rule set. They had already done 3rd edition or 3.5, which most people call it at this point, which was a complete restructuring of the game itself. Yet that was a popular version. Then Hasbro was like, oh, well, the 3.5, we've pretty much gone as far as we can with this. Let's do a 4th edition. And by that, they completely changed almost everything about the game, and people didn't like it. They essentially killed off a very popular edition, put out something new to make more money off it, and learned a hard lesson.
Sounds like a lot of movies and comic books I've read before, where something's great and then they shit on it.
Yeah, essentially. And it's one of the... They've never released sales figures on that.
Really?
They've released sales figures on all the other editions, but never on...
Now, is there a small sub-factor? Do they have 4th edition games at GaryCon? Are there people that are like
No.
pro 4th edition?
There are a few people that like it, but you hardly ever find anybody playing
Like the
it.
Crystal Pepsi likers. They've been waiting 25 years for it to come back.
Zima.
The Zima likers, the new Coke likers.
Yeah, the new Coke, yeah.
They never admitted it, but they like new Coke.
There are people out there that do like it. And again, when it comes to the edition wars as it is, I mean, some people say, play the game that you've got and enjoy it for what it is.
Right.
And that's fine. But I still play the old, what they call first edition, AD&D.
So what edition are we on now?
5th.
So they've only done one edition further. Did they correct the mistakes, or is 5th edition crappy as 4th edition?
5th edition right now is hugely popular.
Okay.
I would say, in my experience, and a lot of people disagree with me, but in my experience, 5th edition is very similar to 3rd.
Okay. All right. So you, as a fan, have to go back to an older version to play the version you want.
Me, yeah.
Now, do they cater to the fans, and do they put out rule books or anything like that go along with 1st edition?
No, they have recently reprinted some of the earlier editions in new formats, which they were collectible to a certain degree, but it wasn't a big deal for me. I mean, it was nice to get them in reprints, but you can't beat the old editions in the old printings because they were just so well done. They just hold up so well together, physically, I mean.
And these were, what, the rule book, monster manuals?
Yeah,
your
player's handbook, your DM's Dungeon Master's Guide, and your master manual.
Now,
your three, what I call the triumvirate.
Now, when you play,
yes,
do you play behind one of those screens?
You want to see it?
I'd like to see the screen. You actually have one of those screens.
I have a couple of them, yeah.
I saw it recently, I think.
There's a picture of me behind it.
I think I saw it on Kickstarter recently that some guy made like this really elaborate, like, have you seen this? It's like, it's a DM screen.
Is it made of wood?
Made of wood,
Yep.
and it looks
Yeah,
like
I've
a little
seen it.
castle or some shit like that. And is that up your alley, or is that a little too?
I wouldn't mind having something like that, but I'm not spending $150,000 on the damn thing either.
$150,000.
Whatever, I don't know.
All right, so getting back to GaryCon.
Yeah.
You guys
Way
don't.
off track.
You guys don't. No, hey, that's where this is gaming, man. That is not all you do, though. You don't just play Dungeons and Dragons. You play.
No. I personally try and find. Well, nowadays I hardly ever get a chance to play any games, but when I do go, I tend to find anything that I haven't played before.
Right.
Something I haven't played in a long, long time. I like to find things that I haven't done before. And playing in D&D games, the only time I'll do that is with someone that I really want to play with, that I haven't before, or that I have before and really enjoy their game. But D&D is so generalized at this point, and I'd rather play something that I haven't before.
Okay. Well, I have so many questions because I'm a con goer.
Go ahead, question
I'm a con goer as
I'll answer as well as I can.
As a comic guy, I'm not familiar with a lot of these game cons so much.
Well, you're coming with me next year.
I'm very interested. I think you had mentioned one time we were talking that they have like a vendor room and everything.
Oh, it's huge.
That's awesome. So if you go and play one of these games, good chances they may have it right there for sale.
In most cases, yeah.
Do they have a lot of play testing, stuff like that?
In some cases, yeah. There was some this year. I wish I could tell you what it was, but I ran so many games. I had a very difficult time getting to the vendor room. I had a hard time getting to the entirety of the convention center itself. I mean, it's not in a convention center. It's actually in a resort.
A resort that used to be what?
The Playboy Club.
The Playboy Club. The actual Hugh Hefner.
Yep. The actual Hugh Hefner Playboy Club.
Boobies and...
In Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's little shrines to them all over the place.
Is there a grotto?
If there was one, it's not in existence anymore. Well, you know what? It's hard because we're there in the wintertime.
Right.
So you don't really see the outdoor...
Well, it's Wisconsin. It's wintertime like 11 months out of the year, probably.
Well, when we got there, it was pretty warm, and you got to see more of the outside because it was later in March this year. Yeah, there's some outdoor pools. I imagine there were probably grottos at one point.
Wow. How is Wisconsin? I've never been to Wisconsin. This is what I know about Wisconsin. The Green Bay Packers play there.
Further north.
They like cheese and brats.
Yep.
Happy Days took place there. It wasn't filmed there.
No.
And, Harold Ramis' character in Stripes once got his ass kicked there because it was compared to Czechoslovakia. Other than that, I don't know anything. I know that you've actually said that you would look forward to, you would move there if you could.
Well, Lake Geneva I would.
Yeah.
I mean, other areas. See, Lake Geneva is only about an hour north of Chicago, so it's not that far into the state.
Right, and you lived in Chicago, so you're...
I did, and I didn't like it.
No.
But That's another story for another podcast.
Episode 46.
Yeah, please.
You got to listen. Now you heard
Way
that.
down the road.
You want this is like I don't want to compare us to the prequels of Star Wars, but you're going to get to the good stuff at 46.
Episode 46, The Life of Sir Jon.
The Life of Sir Jon.
Get a beer now.
Yeah, really. I hit my editing button a lot, too. All right, so you go out there.
It's a nice area. It's a resort community, so there's a lot of little lakes that in the summertime turn into big vacation territories for the people in the cities.
Right.
And other, when you talk to the locals, you'll find out how much they dislike it. But what are you going to do?
When the people descend upon.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens in a lot of places.
When the town goes from 7,000 residents to 40,000 people.
Really, I would never. If my wife said to me tomorrow, "Let's go on vacation," Wisconsin is never coming up. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
I want to go in the summertime just to experience it.
Well, we'll skip ahead a little bit. You're going back in the fall for something else.
Oh, a Game Hole Con, yeah. That would be in Madison though, so it's a little further west.
Yeah. And what is Game Hole Con? How many years has that been running? What is
this? I think this is the 5th year.
5th year.
Yeah.
And is this a break off of GaryCon, or is this
not essentially? It's the guys that are running it were fans of GaryCon, and it's essentially their version of running conventions that they want to do with all the games that they want to have there, with all the guests that they want to have there. It's going to be a great time, I think. I just haven't been able to get to it, but this year I'm doing it.
How many weekend?
Yeah, it'll be just the 3 days.
3 days flying out.
3 days, 4 days. Oh, I've got to fly out. I'm being ordered to by work, so.
Oh.
No taking a week and a day off this time.
Your GaryCon exits. I remember last year. Yeah, I remember getting texts just constantly from Wisconsin and your misadventures.
Oh yeah, quite a few of those.
And I remember you'd said to me this year there was a couple of, now again, if you're listening to this show, you might be familiar with some of the people we're talking about. They're not huge superstars, but Bill Willingham was there, correct?
Yeah, Bill Willingham was there. I didn't see him myself. I meant to, but I was so busy I didn't get a chance to see him. But he was running a game that he was promoting it, or play testing it at least, for future publication. At the time he announced that he couldn't say who was going to publish it. I don't know if he did at the show, but he goes essentially under the radar to run games.
That's cool.
It's really cool.
If you don't know who Bill Willingham is, you're not missing a movie, or you're going, oh, is that he's a comic book a writer, and he's an artist as well.
He was. I hate to call him was an artist, but he hasn't drawn much.
He's mostly known for his writing. He wrote
which is really strange because I originally knew him mostly from his art. Yeah, and he did art for TSR back in the day.
That's what got him kind of into the gaming community. He did the pretty popular Vertigo series Fables, which ended a couple years ago. And there was also a gentleman from Mad TV who is a big gamer, correct? Pat Kilbane?
Pat Kilbane from the early seasons.
Tall guy with like a square haircut.
Yeah, you can't miss him.
Yeah.
Shack guy.
Yeah.
That's how I always remember him. Yeah, he's been going for the last couple of years. He's actually filming a Dungeons & Dragons documentary.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. More on that in a future episode.
There we go. I always find it fascinating when you find out about people. Now, not Pat Kilbane, not a huge superstar, but we can talk about real quick. Someone that a lot of people might not know, a huge superstar who has the biggest movie in the world right now, Vin Diesel.
Yep.
Vin Diesel is a longtime gamer who is a Dungeons & Dragons freak who apparently, from what I've read and understand, has had the same character for like 20 years.
Melkor.
And Melkor.
So I created a character called Melkor. Did you ever see him when he's on a talk show when he talks about Melkor?
No, I saw one thing once where he
geeks out. It's kind of funny, but
But isn't that kind of cool, though, to know that these guys, and not just that, but I think one of the cooler parts is that he pays a friend of his to be, this is what I read, to be his personal GM.
So I've heard.
So, like, if he's, like, in the middle of the night, he's done shooting, he wants to play Dungeons & Dragons, he can play Dungeons & Dragons.
It's nice. It's just, it gets tiring because all the people that don't play are like, oh, Vin Diesel does it, so it must not be that bad. Like, yeah, I remember, like, 20 years ago, you people were all, oh, that guy's in his basement, he hasn't washed himself in weeks, and he's rolling dice on a table. He's being weird.
Unfortunately, you'll get some of the people that will.
I'm not saying that's not accurate, but
it's accurate to an extent. Well, I remember
all stereotypes are to.
I remember very clearly. Probably like 16, 17 years ago, I was working at a place, and I would go on my lunch break and get my comic books, and I'd bring them back to work. I wouldn't read them, but I would leave them in the office where I worked, the bag of them. And I remember
big stamp on the front of the bag.
I got my books, and I remember putting them down in the office. And I remember this girl that I used to work with, who's probably 6-7 years younger than me, and she's probably like 20 years old at the time. And she said, "No, I'm like 27, 28." She's like, "You read comics?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I remember kind of almost feeling like it's this slight, like she's definitely looking at me like I'm like a booger eater. And I'm like, yeah, no, I always enjoy. And she just kind of gave me this look, and I understood that look was like, yeah, you're a nerd. A couple years later, not even a couple years later, let's say 10, 12 years later,
nerd.
I'm still kind of in touch with her. Nerd. I'm kind of in touch with her. I see her somewhere, and all she could talk to me about is how awesome Thor is because of the movies.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Because of the movies.
So
Remember, there were comics before movies.
Exactly. So I've come to those people that
well, whatever.
They were comics before movies.
Yeah, there were movies before comics too,
but still,
you know,
just because Chris Hemsworth is hot doesn't mean Thor's great. But all of a sudden, it's okay to like that stuff because you got a greased up Australian guy
love that
holding
Joker.
a hammer. So we were talking about GaryCon. We talked earlier about New Glarus, and we're going to talk about Malort. What's New Glarus?
It's a brewery.
It's
also a town.
It's a town. It's a brewery.
Yeah, town of like 800 people.
Why can't you get their beers outside of Wisconsin?
They refuse to sell outside of the state.
Really?
Yep. And they're probably one of the biggest breweries. Actually, I think they probably are the biggest privately owned brewery in the state. I've been there. It's a huge.
Took the tour?
Yeah, self-guided tour.
So are they trying to keep it low profile? Are they trying to keep it?
No, they're not low. They are not low profile at all. In fact, most beer aficionados know of the brewery and have at least tried one of their beers. And they've won numerous awards from all over the world.
It's kind of nice to know that.
I've got a bottle of one thing right over there in that box called Serendipity that's won all kinds of crazy awards.
That wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Alembic? Was that Alembic?
Oh, no, it is a fruit-style beer.
I think I had it I think when you came back last year, I had some, and it was good.
A bottle, yeah.
It was good.
It's a great brewery, and the beers that they produce, for the most part, are 100% better than anything that I've had before. So
that's awesome. That's too bad that you have to go.
It's okay.
1,000 miles, whatever it is.
That's all right. I've got some over there for one of our friends, James Carpio, if he ever wants to come pick it up.
Well, I've got some right here, so I'm happy. Now we're going to talk about the inverse of the delicious.
I should say before we move on to the family of Gary Gygax that puts on GaryCon has been nothing but convivial and open armed to everyone that goes to the convention, and I have to give a great shout out to Luke Gygax, Ernie Gygax, Heidi Gygax, Elise Gygax Casino. I could even say Cindy. I haven't met Cindy very much, but they all do great things. Alex Gygax, fantastic group of people. He has a lot of kids. Well, yeah, he was prolific.
He was very prolific.
Very prolific.
He wasn't spending every day down in the basement playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Not at all. Not at all.
Good for him.
And Ernie will have lots of stories for you when you meet him.
All right. Yeah, I did see. I was going to ask you about this. One of your Font of Justice crew. Jason apparently had played in a game that they play. Tell me, in the house? You give me the.
Oh yeah, one of the houses, the house that I guess he created the game in, or at least started the game in, and actually started Gen Con, the convention. He would gather people in the basement, and that's where they had the very first Gen Con.
And Gen Con's gone on to be a humongous. It's in Indianapolis, correct?
This is the 50th year of Gen Con.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Have you gone to that?
No, it's not on my.
Not on your radar?
No, never has been. Well, it might have been, when I was 12 or something. But
right.
No, not so much. It's just too big. But the owner of the home now has been talked into running games there, or not running, but allowing games to be run there during the convention.
That's pretty big. I got to be honest. I don't know if someone came to me and said, "Hey, look, your house was the former blah blah blah. Can we go in your basement and roll dice all day long?" I don't know if I'd want, especially knowing you, Motley Crue, some of you guys. I don't know if I'd want you in my house.
And the size of some of these people.
Yeah.
But no. I guess she's very open to it, since this is, I want to say, the second or third time it's happened there.
Yeah, I saw Jason had put some pictures on Facebook, and I had asked you about it because I just thought that was really cool that the owner would do that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. It was a great idea.
So you also go out. So you go out to Wisconsin once a year, and you come back with all kinds of goodies. You come back with the New Glarus, which we discussed. You came back with, if you want to discuss this, a nice treat for me. You came back because I'm not part of the Font of Justice crew, but I've jumped into games here and there. I'm a neophyte, like I said before. But one thing that I come over every once in a while. We'll have game night, and I'll come over. And I realized something very quickly. I'm the only nerd without its own dice. Everybody comes in with a backpack, and everybody's got a backpack. And the backpacks come out, and graph paper comes out, and the character sheet comes out, and then all of a sudden the bag comes out, and it's looks like jewels. You're like, is there jewels in there? And it's not jewels. It's one of each 26-sided dice, and then a triangle-type dice, and then there's a dice shaped like it's a ball, but it somehow stops on numbers, and they all pull out their things. And the last time we came, I pull up and get in here, and everybody's opening their dice. There's a there's a bag of dice on the table as I look over here right now. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah. And I go, and I have to go, we didn't end up playing that night because the character building of this game is apparently a 3-week thing.
That's Hackmaster.
Everybody, I had to look to the gentleman next to me, and I said, can I use your dice? And I was nervous because I'm thinking to myself that I don't know, like if these guys are like, go fuck yourself. You're not using my dice ever.
Some will.
And some will. But the gentleman next to me, Ivan, I think his name was.
Oh, Ivan.
He said to me, absolutely. And I said, thank you very much. So John came back from Wisconsin this last trip, and he got me a set of Zachi dice.
That's right.
What are Zachi dice?
Colonel Lou Zachi was one of the original creators of the polyhedrons, or I want to say not creators, but the printers or the manufacturers of the original polyhedral dice.
What's a polyhedral dice?
Those are the shaped dice. The 4-sided, which is the triangle. 6-sided, which is the cube.
So until he came around, we were only dealing with regular 6-sided numerical dice.
No, I'm not entirely sure where Gary originally got his dice from. Lou Zachi's precision dice were very intricate in the colors and the shapes and the what I like about his dice particularly are the edges. His are very sharp, and that's why the precision dice.
Yes.
So, and he'll give you a nice little story when you buy from him.
You got me a wonderful set of tan dice.
They tan.
Tan.
They're tan.
They're mustard colored, like Poupon Dijon mustard.
I went raiding his dice and bought a whole bunch of them for myself because I'd never bought from his dice collection before. I've got some of the precision dice, but not specifically from him.
Right.
He's such a character.
Well, I'm ready. All I need now, and I'm not putting it on you, is I need a dice bag so that when I come over next time, I can go into my backpack and pull out a dice bag and not feel like the biggest loser in the room. Places
You can get them on Kickstarter. You can get them on Etsy.
Can I get them on Etsy? Can I get like a little Nightmare Before Christmas?
Or, yeah, you probably could. Or you could probably just buy a bottle of Crown Royal and get yourself a bag, which we used to do back in the day.
Wow. Your delinquency and your D&D habit have always kind of...
Oh, Mom, can I have that bag? You're just going to throw it out.
And the CR bag would be your little dice bag.
Everybody had them. It spawned a whole industry.
Is that really kind of how it started with dice bags?
I think so.
I mean, it's a great idea. Someone said at some point, you got all these dice.
Where are you going to put them?
Where are you going to put them?
Well, you had the problem with the people like me. Well, I mean, I'm not so bad, but there are people that buy a new set of dice for each character.
Were you ever one of those people that, like, because they have so many different color, clear, and that you had to, like, oh my God, they got clear dice with red numbers? No, you weren't that guy.
Nope.
No.
I like specific styles of dice. I like
do you still have the same dice you had when you were like 15?
Yeah.
I knew you would.
Want to see them?
Yeah, you have them?
They're right in here.
Oh my God, he's got a giant bag.
They're in here. They're in my bag. Oh, I got notes in here too.
Sir Jon.
Here's a GaryCon 8-sided die.
8-sided white dice with a nice like little green numbering system.
Yep. This was from this year because they didn't print it off last year, and although I have one from last year, they didn't. I needed another one.
So they do like convention.
Well, yeah, for
exclusives.
For GaryCon 4, they did the 4-sided die. And for GaryCon 6, they did the 6-sided die.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's no 9-sided die, so they didn't do a die this year.
No die.
No. So next year, it'll be a 10-sided die. I don't know where the hell they
are.
It's a big bag.
I'm impressed.
I'll take a picture of them at some point, and I'll show you.
We'll put it on the
dice.
We'll put it on the website or the Facebook page at some point soon. Yeah, he's got a bag. If you ever go to the movie theater, you can hear this now. If you ever go to the movie theater and you get like a bag of like popcorn that's like a little bit smaller than the medium size, he has a bag big enough to eat and be full of dice.
I bought this at GaryCon 5 or 6.
It's got a pirate theme.
Yeah, they were really good. They used to make dice bags that were really big, and when you opened them up, the bottom of it stayed flat, so you could keep them in the bag.
Oh, okay, not lose them all on the sides.
It was really good. They had some really great designs, and I don't remember their names now. But
so I want to get to something else that we talk about with your trips to Wisconsin. That we've touched upon it from the hip in the old show, and that is your
Playboy?
No, that is your constant purchasing of Malort. Why don't you explain to anybody that hasn't heard the prior shows what Malort is?
Oh, Malort. Oh, okay. So, what's this now? Three years ago, I want to say, we discovered a commercial, as it were, commercial for the liqueur Malort on YouTube. And we watched it, thought it was hilarious, discovered that it was an actual liquor, that you could purchase, but only in the Chicago area, unless your distributor was good enough,
cruel enough to send it out past Chicago.
It doesn't sell that many, outside of that area. So, not people in the Northeast. One, they probably never heard of it. Two, would not want to drink it within reason. And then
there's no reason. I've had Malort. There's no within reason.
No distributor is going to carry a one case per 3 years.
Yeah, no.
So you're not going to find it in areas this far away from its home territory. So when we got out to GaryCon 3 years ago, the first thing I did was go try and find a bottle. I found 4 or 5. I forget how many I brought home. But, we sampled it. It was pretty horrid, just like the commercial says it was.
Putrid's a better word, I think.
Yeah, it's a wormwood liqueur.
Ugh.
It's hard to describe the taste. Some people call it coffee ground and grapefruit rind mixed together.
Coffee ground.
I don't know. It's what people say.
I'm going to go with turpentine and the devil's piss.
What'd you call it? The Satan's bathwater?
Satan's bathwater. Yeah. On the old show, if you ever remember, if you listened to the old show or if you saw the video, I did a shot that nearly killed me. I got to admit, I definitely didn't handle it as well as a lot of other people I've seen handle it, but it was about as bad as I could imagine tasting.
Malort has that reputation of being a nasty tasting drink.
Yeah.
It's been around for almost a century now, so you've got people that are still drinking it, like me.
I.e. you.
Like me.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I like about Malort is it lends itself to the man test very well. And so John comes back with a few bottles of this stuff, and there really is it's not like you're going to take it home and go, okay, well, we're going to pour a tumbler of this and go back and forth for a while and sip on it. This is something that you bring to a party. You bring to a party and you go. I very vividly remember last year, the beginning of the summertime, we went over to our good friend Lonnie's house for a going away party. And John brought the bottle of Malort.
This is the name drop episode. We're gonna name everybody in the known universe.
We go to Lonnie's house. John brings the Malort bottle, and Lonnie's wife is a veterinarian, and there's a bunch of young veterinarian. I don't know if they were vets or nurses' aides or what, but they start hearing the stories of Malort, and next thing you know, they're all doing shots, and it just spreads. It just spreads, and I work with a gentleman who a drinker, and I told him about it, and he said, I'd like to try that. So about a week ago, we had a game night at my house, and he was there, Tony was there.
Playing movie buff.
Since
we're going to name drop everything.
The fantastic game by Justin Purvis. And John came over, and John had like about about a quarter of a bottle left of Malort, and Tony did a shot, and Tony's a stoic guy, and he took it like a champ, and he did a second shot, and John did a couple shots, and Brian, another name drop, did a couple shots. And I could just sit there and look in awe. So I ended up with an empty bottle in my house. I have an empty bottle of Malort now in my house.
Turn it into a lamp.
This is what I told my wife. I said to my wife. So I rinsed it out, and I had it sitting on the kitchen counter. And she said, you're not going to keep that there forever, are you? I said, I don't know where I'm going to put it, but this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to buy that really pretty multicolored sand, and I'm going to put layers of it in there because I'm going to make something beautiful out of something horrible. And we're going to put it in the back room, and it's going to sit there. People are going to go, that's so beautiful. And I'm going to go, but you don't know what that contained at one point. That contained the devil's dick in liquid form.
You should send that to the website.
I'll send it to their website. Look what I did with your product, you horrible people.
Jepson's Malort.
Yeah, so if you're ever curious about Jepson's Malort and you're in the Chicago area, pick it up. If you're not in the Chicago area and you're ever curious to be on the show, contact us. We'll get you on the show, and we will have you do a shot with us because
I've got plenty.
It kind of in this Pino Comics from the Hip Time family, it's kind of spread because Vinny had taken half of the bottle that John had left over from when we were doing shots, and he's done videos where he's had family members doing it. So it's spreading out there. So if you ever are interested and you're a friend of mine or John's, say, hey, I'm going to come on over. We'll do a shot live on the air. And well, not that we're live, but we'll do it live on the podcast.
Live on the podcast.
It'll be played live. It'll sound fine.
For those that want to know what style of liqueur it is or liquor, it's considered a Bosc or a Bronvin, but Malort itself is they're trying to trademark the name. Someone else tried to put out another liquor called the Malort, and they sued them.
So Jepson's is the name, and Malort is the type of liqueur?
Well, they're saying now Malort is actually the name of their liqueur, not an actual liqueur.
Malort not only... It sounds perfect, because it sounds like it's... it almost sounds like Voldemort. It sounds like something you shouldn't talk about.
Being Swedish, and they say Malort is supposed to mean wormwood. In Swedish.
Okay.
When I showed it to my Swedish cousin Sievert, he looked at it and he goes, ugh. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm not drinking that. I'm like, why not? He goes, it means bad.
It sounds, Malort sounds like bad.
He goes, it just means bad. And I'm like, okay.
I mean, in I think, is it Spanish? Mal is bad.
Oh, yeah.
So Malort is just like shitty bad.
It's a lovely color, though.
It is it's a nice caramel color. Yeah, and if you ever get a chance, if you want to,
I actually think it looks like urine.
It does look like urine. If you want to piggyback on the show, go to YouTube and just type in Malort, and there's not only the very funny commercial they do, but there's all different kinds of. There was a
there's the
taste testers, the wine taste testers who taste it.
Yeah, there's a whole article about 4 or 5 well-known sommeliers basically tasting it as wine and judging it as wine, and it's hysterical, the things that they wrote about it, and the videos are just even better.
It honestly has
the Malort face.
It honestly has no redeeming qualities. You know, one thing I always wondered about.
Yeah, sure it does.
I don't think we've ever talked about it. I don't think I ever.
This is a redeeming quality right here.
Well, it is. I mean, it really does. One of the things that they put on the bottle, I think years ago, it's not on there anymore. I was watching one of those videos, and it said that at one point on the bottle, it said like only 1 in 49 is man enough to drink this. You know, like right on the bottle, it's saying.
I imagine they had to take that off.
Yeah.
People are drinking it.
Yeah. Well, that probably doesn't, you look at it and go, Jesus. It's like that old sketch. You ever see that sketch on Saturday Night Live where Tom Hanks is like, oh my God, this milk is sour. Here, try it. And then people do that, you know?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, but everything he does, he falls on the stairs and he goes, that stair's broken. Try it out. And the guy falls on the stairs. That's what Malort is. You're like, oh my God, this is so terrible. You have to taste this.
Try it, yeah.
Because it's almost unbelievable.
It's great. It's fantastic.
It's not great.
Oh, it's great.
So after you got back from GaryCon, after you had a complete 5 days of nothing but.
Yeah, I should say that. I mean, so I get there the first day, and it's basically partying it up, and then the very next day, Thursday, you go into, well, like I did, 12 straight hours of gaming. I ran 12 straight hours of gaming.
You're hardcore.
Yeah, and then Friday, you do the same thing again, but I didn't do 12 straight hours on Friday. Saturday, run more games. Sunday is my day off, and those are the days that I take for myself to play games.
To do stuff you're not running.
If I have time. Usually in the last few years, it was an annual event of Civilization, the board game, which I would play for 10 to 12 straight hours. So
at last year's Sticks and Stones, I watched you and 2 other gentlemen play that for what appeared to be 9 hours straight.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
And you didn't finish.
No, we didn't finish. We got to a point where there was an obvious winner, and once you get to that point, you can just shut down.
I floated around Sticks and Stones playing different games and doing this and that, and every time I float around John's table, these 3 guys are trading wheat and building armies, and and I'm just like,
it's the best game.
It's like Risk, the 10-hour version.
It's essentially the same thing as the video game Civilization. It's the earliest version of the board games. I like it much better than any other version that ever came out. It's one of my favorite games. Avalon Hill, a wonderful company, now also owned by Hasbro.
I'm going to have to get my wife to play that game with you because my wife loves stuff like that.
Oh, it's forever.
She loves stuff. Even the amount of time, whenever we would play Risk, I'm the guy that would get cornered in Australia and die. She could play for hours on end.
And it's not, again, I mean, it's a Civilization game. It's a building game. It's not a war game.
Not a war game.
But there is conflict in it constantly because that's just the nature of the game.
She was a big Sims person, so building things up is seeing how things work is very, very cool to her. So
yeah, Civ as we call it in shorthand it has a very intense group of people that play it. And,
yeah, you and 2 other guys that played for 9 hours one day.
Well, there's that, yeah. But when you get a full board, 7, or in the case of last year when we played it, it was the Mega Civilization game, which was 18 players. Now we didn't have 18 players, but man, that game was awesome.
So you come back from GaryCon. You come back after, let's say 4 intense days of gaming.
Yeah, 4 intense days of gaming plus the travel time.
Plus the travel time. So
you had the hanging out time.
You had a long week.
Oh, yeah.
You come back to work, and then me and you had press tickets to go to the Mohegan Sun Casino, your old stomping grounds where you worked. We had a show that was run by Mitch Halleck, the gentleman that does Terrificon, which we loved last year.
Terrificon, which I think is one of the best conventions of everything from comics to games and everything in between, movies, TV. It's one of the best small conventions I have ever been to.
It's awesome. It is a good time.
Yeah.
So Mitch started something new this year. He started what was called GamerCon. And we really didn't know what to expect from GamerCon because we really wasn't a whole lot of, at least not that I saw a preamble to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what it was going to be. So in the same space,
There were no guests, right? There was nothing listed
there
like
was
that.
nothing that I saw there. No. So in the same space that they had Terrificon, which is a large ballroom, they basically split the room in half, and one side was vendors from anything from pop vinyls to movie posters to games. There was a gentleman there selling wooden practice swords and shields.
That's
That was
right.
very cool.
Very good stuff. I mean, there was some cosplay.
Cosplay.
That sort of thing.
Yep.
Not much, but
Oh, there was the one girl dressed like Link.
no, I mean actual vendors of con.
Oh yeah, they had a couple cosplayers, right?
And then there was a big area for I guess they were doing a
Magic?
magic tournament. So
Yeah, they had a big Magic tournament
Magic
area.
the Gathering, the card game.
Sorry. So they had that, and then on the other side of the partition was what I can only describe as video game nerd mania.
It was an eye-opening experience.
It was an eye-opening experience. They had, what would you say? They had 400 televisions in that room.
Of every shape and size.
Every shape and size. The old tube TVs, nothing flat screen really. There was just a couple maybe. I don't know how it was set up. I couldn't really tell whether you came with your own console and set up and played free play.
I think the consoles were already there.
Were the consoles there?
I just don't know how they were organizing it for playing. It seemed like there were some tournaments going on.
Right. There was definitely tournaments going on.
And then by the time we were leaving, and we stayed there all day.
Oh, we were there all day, yeah.
It seemed that they were organizing more actual tournaments of groups of people, and I don't know what they were playing. I mean, a lot of it was Mario and all
Smash Brothers.
Yeah, all those variations of Mario. Because it went back, the consoles that we saw there were everything from the Nintendo system right on up to PS4.
Yep.
And what a conglomeration of
it was interesting.
Gamers.
It was interesting. We at one point, John pointed this out to me, and I did take a picture of this and put it on my Facebook, and I will put this on the website when we get the website going.
We also have a Facebook page coming soon.
We have a Facebook page coming soon as well. Know anything about gamers? You know, there's that thing that people call gamer funk. I always go back. I always think of the World of War. I think of the World of Warcraft episode of South Park. If you've ever seen that, where the boys get deeply involved in World of Warcraft and live in the parents' basement, and they just get fatter and pimplier and more disgusting because they're not bathing, they're not moving, they're doing nothing but raiding or whatever you do in Warcraft. And Cartman's mother comes downstairs once a day, and basically he demands a bucket, and he explodes diarrhea into the bucket.
Wow.
So this is the reputation a lot of gamers get, and unfortunately,
how that happens.
Unfortunately, the truth is there are a lot of stinky gamers that do not shower or
They perpetuate the stereotype.
They perpetuate the stereotype. So as we were at the GamerCon, we're in that giant room with first of all, we run into a gentleman who made fun of another kid for playing Madden.
Yeah.
And then went on to espouse about how he was much cooler because he had 3,500 hours into Destiny. I don't really even know what Destiny is. I'm assuming it's very much like a Warcraft game. But to have 3,500 hours into anything, I don't know if that's something I'd really brag about.
He was very talkative.
He weren't wearing press badges, so it wasn't like, he was trying to get in on the show or anything like that. So we move away from him. We basically pull the, okay, my foot's in the bear trap, I'm going to chew my leg off move. I chewed my leg off. I dragged myself over to this large area where they had a stage where they were going to have a tournament, and there was a big, like a movie screen, and they had set up like a movie theater. They had rows of seats, and then John just kind of points down to me and goes, someone's in trouble. And they're laying on the ground in between a couple seats, and you got to remember, everybody here's got backpacks and everything, is an Axe body wash. So the
largest size.
The largest size, like the gallon of Axe body wash is on the floor. And now this poor gamer who had slipped out of one of his little side pockets I give him credit, at least he knew. But now he is going to stink for the rest of the weekend.
That whole weekend.
I can't
even imagine.
That whole weekend. He didn't have his Dark Phoenix or whatever bullshit that they sell through Axe there.
What did I say to you? Just the sheer amount of people that were there, the I hate to say this, but the type of people that were there was indicative of Comic-Cons from 25 to 30 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, mostly males, very few females.
Yeah, not a lot of girls.
No, which I was surprised by considering the what you hear about the gamer geek girls.
Yeah.
But not for this show. Or at least not for the day that we were there.
And the few girls we did see. Now, here's a phenomenon. The few girls we did see, there must be something in the gamer community where girls, their vision isn't as good, because there was a couple of fairly good-looking girls that were the league that they were playing in.
Oh, the guys.
The guys. You know, he has one of my favorite games is Super Mario Smash Brothers, and then he's got this girl who's pretty good-looking, and you're like, I can only imagine that he's got one thing going on, and I'm not gonna say it here, but it's a big dick. It's
not gonna say it here.
I'm not gonna say it here though, but I mean. And I
hung like a moose.
Hung like a moose. I just don't know. Steam shovel in his pants. But in any case, it confounded me a few times. There was a few times that I had to look. I had to look like twice and go, "There's no. Oh no, he just kissed her. Wow, look at that. Good for him.
Wow, yeah.
You know what's going on."
Yeah,
but
they're
then
just
again,
good friends now.
as opposed to 25 years ago when I was a young guy, nerds weren't cool then.
Yeah,
nerds have inherited the earth now.
Yeah. It was just a weird convention. I can't even quantify it anymore. I mean, just weird. And again, I mean, the games that they were playing aren't games that I would normally go to when I would play a video game. Mario side-scrolling adventures were never my thing.
No.
I mean, I could play them, and they were enjoyable every now and again, but not something I would aim at. I needed something with a little bit more meat to it. Or what I liked were the fighting games. I always liked the fighting games.
I know your game.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Love that.
You're the only guy I know that actually loved both movies and watched the TV show.
Yep.
And enjoyed the TV show.
I had the TV show on tape, and I had to throw that out in one of the 4 moves I had last year. So
4 moves, yeah.
And it's not available on DVD. So
I was gonna say, if I ever am at a Best Buy and see it for
$5,
I'll buy it for you.
In a minute.
I'll pick it up for you.
It was so good.
That's unreal.
It was so good.
I saw the Mortal Kombat movie, the first one, when it came out. So let's say 1994, 3, and I was a casual Mortal Kombat fan. But I left the theater, and I was probably 18 at the time, so you think that'd be right when I'd be into it. And I went, well, if I never see that again, I can give a crap.
Was that Mortal Kombat 2 or the first one?
1.
Oh, with Bridget Nielsen?
Yeah, I think...
not Bridget Nielsen. Bridget Wilson.
Bridget Wilson, and I think James Remar.
James Remar.
Yeah,
yep.
That was a crap movie, man.
James Remar as Raiden.
Because they couldn't even get him for the second one, right? When you can't trap James Remar into a second role, then you're in trouble.
I'm not sure if he wanted to do it. I don't know if he wanted to do it or if he was busy doing something else.
He was busy gardening or something.
Yeah.
So we went to the GamerCon, and I had a good time.
It was all right. It was just odd.
I think that,
and again, I mean, because they were playing all the same games, I was looking for something greater,
right,
and much more adventurous. The one kid that was playing the Madden game. Were there 2 or 3 screens with that?
Yeah.
And just you look around, it's like Mario. There were no Sega, no Sonic, no Crash Bandicoot.
You
know,
no Earthworm Jim.
No Earthworm Jim. Wow, that's.
We could do this all day long.
Oh yeah, we could.
We could.
But if that's what they were aiming at, I don't know what the tournaments were. There wasn't really a good explanation as to how everything.
There was.
Of course, we didn't ask any questions.
Yeah, we didn't ask any questions, and in all honesty, I think Mitch is a smart guy. Obviously, he's really built up the Terrificon.
Yep.
To what it is now. I've gone every year. When it was originally Comic-Con, and then they, I guess there was some dispute with the other guy. It's become Terrificon. He's got it at the Mohegan Sun. It's a great location.
It's great
It's
convention.
easy to talk to. When we go this year, our show is going to be fantastic because we are going to have some really good. We didn't record a lot of stuff last year, but we talked to Dan Slott. We talked to Jerry Ordway, who remembered you. Who remembered John from meeting him 20 years ago in Middletown, Connecticut. We could go up there and
coming soon to a future podcast.
Jerry Ordway, who we're gonna get on the show, looks at John and I know you, don't I? And it's like, no. He's supposed to say that to you.
Yeah, it was an odd thing, but we met some great people.
I mean,
Joe Staten and Graham Nolan.
Yeah. Who when we talked to him then had told us that there was going to be a new Bane series.
Yep. That's
down the pipe, and that's coming out now. So I mean,
is it out this month or next month?
This month or next month.
Yep. But it's great stuff. I mean, these guys were awesome to talk to. I talked to Carl Kessel for the first time ever, and
you embarrassingly asked him about his wife, who was his longtime ex-wife. That was pretty good.
So I don't know their personal lives that well. It's not my.
You could see the hurt in his eyes. John's like, "So how's everything going with Barbara?" And he's like, She packed everything into a small suitcase and left in 1997, and I just
dick moment, dickometer.
I sunk and walked away. We talked to who we're also going to get back on the show. The guys from the Charlton movie.
Yep.
Who that's got to be coming around pretty soon. We got to contact them for this.
So. I know they've done more work on it, so They've interviewed John Byrne and a couple of other people. I just don't know what's been going on. I've been so busy with regular life.
Regular life has unfortunately gotten us to this point now, but we're at this point now where we're recording our first show.
Yep.
And I'm super psyched because we had talked about this for a long time. And around Christmas time, I told John that I figured we would start probably the end of February, March. Then we didn't get there. But you know what? It's April. We got the first one in the can, which we're doing right now. And we're hoping that you guys just tag along and listen. I know there were some really heavy From the Hip fans who enjoyed it every week. And you know what? Keep listening to that. But you know what? It's almost like this. Look at it this way. When Cheers was on the air, you still watch the Tortellis, right?
Oh, God.
Oh, wait. We're not the Tortellis, okay?
I hope not.
I got to think of a better one. Okay, when Cheers went off the air, you definitely tuned into Frasier, didn't you? That lasted like 9 years. So we're not the Tortellis, but we're Frasier.
Really?
I can't think of any successful spin-offs.
Really?
None? I'm drawing a blank.
Really? None.
Give me one.
Not at all. Good Times.
Good Times was a spin-off of what?
Well, that would be off of Maude.
Maude, okay.
Maude, which was a spin-off of Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker.
I mean, spin-off is spin-off is spin-off.
I thought The Jeffersons was a spin-off of Archie Bunker.
Sure.
And Good Times was too?
Sort of.
Okay.
You know, there's Archie Bunker spun off so many shows.
Yeah.
And then you got all kinds of spin-offs and characters that were interacting back then. I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid.
I did too.
It was all in reruns, just so you know.
At that time, it was already canceled?
Yeah.
I'm writing all these hints.
I'm only 29.
I'm writing all these hints down to what your real age is. Although I do know it. I'll never say it because I'm a nice guy.
Oh, yeah. No, let's see. Good spin-offs. Let me think here.
Oh, jeez.
There are plenty of them. Star Trek.
Well,
Star Trek Next Generation.
Next Generation. I don't even know if I
wasn't
call that a
even direct.
spin-off.
Nah, you really can't.
That's almost like
that would be like DS9 from Next Gen. That's
DS9's a spin-off. Yeah.
Deep Space Nine.
Star Trek Next Generation was not a reboot, but like a jeez, I don't know what you call it.
That's a sequel.
Sequel.
Better put it as a sequel. I mean, because you had the movies.
There have been some. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. Fish. No, that didn't last.
No, it didn't last.
That didn't last.
Barney Miller didn't have good spin-offs.
No, well, because Barney Miller was needed
Unique,
that group.
yeah.
That group was very important.
Good old Barney Miller.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that show. What was Steve Lansdale? What was his name?
Steve Landesberg.
Landesberg. He was the driest guy on earth.
He's dead now.
Is he dead?
Yep. Dead or alive, Steve Landesberg.
I didn't know he was dead.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
You know who I thought was dead? For a long time, I thought he was dead. And I just saw him on TV the other day. Louis Anderson.
Really?
Yeah, not dead.
Huh.
Convinced he was dead.
Is he skinny?
No. No, he's the same. He's still heavy. He's still got the gap in his teeth. He still talks like this.
He's still the only white guy in Coming to America.
McDowell's.
I heard that Eddie Murphy was looking to do a sequel to that.
I think Eddie Murphy's looking to do anything right about now. And I like Eddie Murphy. I don't want to be mean, but it's been quite a while since he's had any real hits.
You want to say hi, Kaylee? You can.
Are you on the radio now?
No, we're just recording.
Well, I heard you talk about Star Trek. I just wanted to say that John's favorite episode, the first episode of Star Trek Next Generation, was on with Q, and he really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I so enjoyed that.
You didn't like that?
We watched it again last night. I
Encounter at Farpoint, right?
Oh god, it's so bad.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. Next Generation, I was very
2 hours
in and out.
of. Well, yeah, the first 3 seasons of Next Gen were just terrible. That's a tangent line that I'll get into later.
Have you ever seen it's a YouTube video. You've got to watch it because you'll never watch an episode of Next Generation the same again. It's all Riker sitting in a chair. But you never notice it when you watch a show. He never sits in a chair normally. He walks up behind the chair and swings his leg over the back of the chair and then sits in a chair. So they have a YouTube supercut video of this. It's him doing it like 30 times throughout the course of the series. He walks up behind a chair and swings his leg over and then sits in the chair. He doesn't come around the chair and sit in it like a normal person. It's all Riker sitting in a chair. It's hilarious.
I never noticed.
Yes, you're going to have to watch it, and then you're going to watch the show, and you're going to go...
I'm watching 7 seasons of that just to see Riker swing his leg over a chair.
I prefer DS9. So we got Encounter at Farpoint is bad.
Yeah.
We have
Terrible.
Talked about GaryCon. We talked about GamerCon. And now we're going to talk about something that's upcoming that we haven't talked about yet. We have... coming up in June 3rd, it will be the 3rd Connecticut FIG, the Festival of Independent Games.
You got to say it right.
The Festival of Independent Games. The Connecticut Festival of Independent Games. It is being put on again. Kind of brainchild, I guess, by Jason Michelli and the guys from the Geek Fever games.
Yeah, I get spun off of
Boston Fig.
Boston
The
Fig,
Boston
yeah.
Festival of
Festival
Games.
of Games.
And we went last year. We recorded From the Hip the first time we went, which was monumental. It was a great show.
That was awesome.
We met Evan from Origins, which is a fantastic game that we talked about a lot in From the Hip. We'll talk about a lot here. We met Justin Purvis, the movie buff guy, who movie buff has just permeated our lives.
We'll talk about movie buff.
And we'll talk about movie buff quite a bit. And we're going to get Justin and Evan back on here again. Yep. And, there was a lot of people there. We recorded. We had a really good time. They had a mid-year event last year, probably September, October. It was also a lot of fun. It was held at the Friendly Neighborhood Tabletop Shop in Newington, Connecticut, which they're going to hold the next one again.
It was a good time.
It was a good time. We spent the whole day there and basically played
a whole lot of games.
10 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, I think we finally left. We met other guys like Frank DiCola, who did Mr. Game.
Oh, Mr. Game.
We met a whole bunch of people. We went last year on the second one, and we were just there as kind of just us there at the game. This year, now that the show's back on the road, we're going to be there to record, and we're going to get some more interviews, and we're going to play some new games, and that's really exciting to me because, as you know, we talked about in the old show, I wasn't a big gamer before, and I've played so many awesome games. I've spent too much money on Kickstarter back in these friggin' games. I'm ready. I'm digging it.
Not a gamer.
Semi-gamer.
Semi-gamer. Hearing all these stories from our friend Lonnie Chant a few weeks ago about your
my RPG days. Yeah. We played
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
TMNT.
Palladium.
We played TMNT, and we weren't turtles. We were Wolverines.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. And my favorite turtle.
Wolverines.
My favorite turtle of all time was always Raphael because he had the attitude and the sigh, and mine had the sigh, and I was kind of the attitude guy.
The attitude guy.
And we would go on Saturday afternoons. We would take the bus down to the Russell Library on Broad Street in Middletown, and we would get a quiet room, go in there, and I didn't own dice then either, but Donnie would bring dice, and we would play TMNT for hours on end. We also played Robotech quite a lot. I love Robotech.
Which that's a game I've never played that I always wanted to.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I got one up on you.
Yeah. It's one that no one plays at any of the shows I go to, and I don't go to that many game cons. I'd like to go to more, but time consuming.
Yes, well,
someday.
As we were told recently at a class we went to, we're real adults.
Yeah, real adults.
So unfortunately, we have lives to live.
Yeah. I should actually bring that up. I ran a game at GaryCon this year for the Dead Game Society, which is a loosely organized group of people that run games that are no longer being supported or published by various companies. And I ran a game, I can't even remember, Merc Spies and Private Eyes, like a one-shot game from 1983.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
I played a game years ago called Ninjas
game.
and Super Spies.
Yeah, that's still around. Honestly, I'm not sure if that's being supported anymore, but I think it may have been reprinted. Regardless, the Dead Game Society, they focus on all these old editions and old games that may or not be handled that much anymore. And I don't think Robotech is being printed at the moment. I can't say yes or no to that. I know they were working on a new miniature version of the game, but someone from the Dead Game Society should do that, Chad.
So if you're listening, Chad, apparently you're the guy that picks the games.
Chad also does a podcast, and he's probably going to kick me in the teeth. I have to look it up as to what it's called.
Look it up. We'll get that out there for you to listen to.
We'll do that real quick.
I loved Robotech. Robotech was also, at the time...
Oh, I love the cartoon. So.
Yeah. The Zentradi and all that stuff. It was cool. And one of the best parts of the game was we got to fly the... what were the mechs, and we had, turn to planes.
Oh, yeah, Veritex.
Veritex. I couldn't think of the name. I'm sorry.
Shame on you.
Is there anything you want to get out there to the people that are going to be listening to our podcast that you want to tell them that we're going to do? That anything in particular that you're excited about?
I think our list of upcoming guests is going to surprise people.
Yeah.
I think you're going to want to listen to the things that we have to say to them. If you got a chance to check out one of the last From the Hips that we did, where we had Steve Bissett, well-known artist and creator, writer, who lives up in Vermont, known for being one of the co-creators of John Constantine, or artist on Swamp Thing.
Yep.
Now, we didn't even talk about that stuff. We just talked about movies and creation. And
he's truly one of the most interesting guys out there.
He's a fascinating person. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I look forward to getting him on this show again. When we talked to him on From the Hip, It was really kind of impromptu,
Yep.
and you know, I think we held our own, but I was a little nervous. I didn't know what to say to him.
It sounded great.
And I think it came out great. I think
did.
he said so much awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And shortly thereafter, I friended him on Facebook, and he is just such an awesome guy.
Yep.
And I think about it sometimes. Like the other day, I was looking at his Facebook, and he was talking about some stuff, and you get to see some, like, he's been doing all these certain people in his life or friends who are having medical bills, like kind of GoFundMe things. He's been doing like little drawings and stuff, and Swamp Thing and Etrigan the Demon, and you know, kind of putting them out there as donations that'll go towards these people. And I was just thinking about when we talked to him, and he was so impressive. Like, he was so encyclopedic, you know, his knowledge this guy has. And I thought, God, I would, if he like lived, I just wish he even lived closer so that we can get him on. I'd get him on here once a week, because we could have we could do like, you know, 3 shows a month and then do the Bassett show. You know what I mean? And just sit back and
the
record.
sheer amount of stuff that he could tell you, and there's so many people he's worked with over the years. It would just be great to have more stories from him.
He was super fascinating, and I can't wait to talk to him again, and I can't wait to get into that again, because I felt like that was our peak right there. It was like we talked to some really cool people on From the Hip, and then we got to that point, and it was just, you know, and of course as time goes on, Vinny was moving. We knew it was going to happen, and I think we just had this really good momentum right at that point, and unfortunately at that point it was just kind of like, okay, well now it was Vinny's show. He owned all the equipment, and we're coming around Christmas time, and holy crap, this is expensive. So, yeah, it took a little while to get going again, but we're going again.
We're going to go. Don't worry. And we're going to have all the old friends. We're going to have Brian back on. We're going to have Professor Bill Foster on again. We're going to have Jackie Jabushka. We're going to have, you name it.
No rules, just right. We're taking it out of the Outback Steakhouse's book. We just want to have people on here. We're going to have a good time. We want to talk about fun stuff. And if you're a listener and you think there's something that you're super interested in, you want to come on and talk about, or you know someone that's an artist or a musician or whatever, give us a line. You know what I mean? Once we get that website up, drop us a line and we'll get you on.
Got something we need to know about? Let us know.
That's right.
Send us email. I don't have an email yet. Do we have email yet?
We don't yet. We're getting there.
Find us on Facebook.
Find us on Facebook. You can contact us now. Again,
Pint-O Comics.
Pint-O Comics. And so this has been our first show. I hope you enjoyed it.
It's a mess.
I think it was good. I think we were a little over the place, but I think, you know.
That's all right. We gotta get our stuff out there again.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think,
a lot to talk about.
I think we'll talk about this real quick because of the time of year we're at. I think one of our next shows, I think it's going to be Summer Movie Preview. We did that a few times on From the Hip, and that was always fun. I think me and John are going to sit down and we're going to watch all the trailers of all the stuff that's coming out that we probably won't go see.
Where's that bottle of Malort?
And we're going to tell you, should you go see Baywatch? Probably not. Should you?
I should go see that just for the hell of it.
Should you go see Transformers 5? Probably not.
No.
But you know what? We're going to talk about that. So until next time, I'm John.
I'm John too.
And
you can call me Sir Jon.
You can call me Sir Jon. You can call me John. You can call me Johnny Ganache. You can call me whatever you want. It's okay with me. And as usual, see ya.
See ya. Want to do another one?